In my post above, I started talking about the importance of ankle mobility, and now I want to kind of show you guys some stuff that you can do to enhance that ankle mobility, which will also allow some glute firing patterns to happen, which will just aid in the whole kinematic chain, feeling a lot stronger from the foot down all the way up and vice versa. So what I want to take a look at is actually some single leg activities today. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start with a single leg squat. Now, a lot of times these activities are done wrong because a lot of people, instead of engaging the right muscle groups, will actually try to just do the movement without really thinking about what muscle firing patterns need to happen in order to accomplish the activity. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it in three different parts today. So we're going to take it from the very basic. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look at using a bench, essentially like a low bench or a low chair, or a chair at home that has no arms to it would work fine. A coffee table would work fine as long as it's sturdy. You don't want anything that's going to break or snap on you either. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at first the squat in general. So I have my feet shoulder width apart. If you have a little bit of foot flare, totally fine. That's not a big deal. A lot of times when people do squats, they actually go ahead and they drop the chest first, stick the butt out, and then try to go ahead and come down into that squat because they're so focused on trying to keep the knees not going past the toes. But what we're going to do here is we want to really focus now on engaging quad, glute, and hamstring. So we're really now understanding the importance of the three muscle groups that need to really work in this relationship. So from here, what we're going to do now is we're going to come down into our squat, and notice that I come down and I always maintain a nice high chest. Okay, so nice and easy. I came down into my squat, my quads were firing, I kept the weight in my heels, and then now I'm going to come out of my squat. Okay, so now what we want to do is, now that you kind of have an idea of where that placement is, you want to go ahead and you want to essentially try to get all the way down and hover and then come on up. What's going to happen and what you're going to notice is you're going to actually, as you go down into that squat, because you can't really identify where that bench is, you should want to feel like you're lifting the toes a little bit, increasing tibialis anterior, which is your shin muscle, and that means you're also going to start increasing a little bit of range of motion with dorsiflexion. So now let's go ahead and we'll make it a little bit more complex. So now what I've gone ahead and done is I've gone and brought my legs now a little closer so they're shoulder width apart. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to come up out of my squat, I'm going to lift my leg, come down, come back into that position, come back up, come back down into that position. What I would recommend is actually going ahead and trying this 10 times to really start getting that sense of single leg activity going on both sides. Because then from there, you want to actually try to go ahead and lower yourself down as if you're going to sit down in that chair and then focus on coming up out of that chair. So you're coming down, come into it, come up, okay? Then now I'm going to do it on my left side. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come up, and I'm going to go ahead and now really start focusing on firing off that glute, and then I'm coming up again from there. So the idea is in this is to take a squat progression and starting to go ahead and make it a lot more single leg activity. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take it a little step further, and you notice that I have a dumbbell actually in front of me. You can use a kettlebell, you can use anything, water jug, medicine ball, any type of object, but what we're going to do now is we're going to focus on a toe touch, a little bit more advanced movement pattern for that single leg activity. So what we're going to do now, and a lot of times when people do this activity, they tend to really drop the chest first. We don't want to drop the chest here. We want to go ahead and really sink our butt down and back. So from here, I'm going to lift my left leg. I'm going to take my left hand, and I'm coming down, and I'm trying to go ahead, touch the weight, and I'm coming back up. Notice I kept my chest high the whole entire time. Position. Here it is, I've gone ahead, lifted my right leg up, my right hand comes down, I center and balance myself, I come down all the way, trying to touch the weight, and then coming up. The idea here is that you don't want to go ahead and actually fall forward, because that's going to just start engaging the hip flexors, which we don't want. We want to start really working quad hamstring relationship and also get that glute firing pattern happen. So from there, we went from a low seat now to a single weight activity. Once you have that kind of done, you can then attempt it without anything. And the idea is to really try to now sink all the way down towards that calf, towards that toe. And as you're coming up, you're pushing up through that glute on your way up. So again, from a side view, here it is. I've gone ahead, lifted my right leg up, and I'm now kind of dropping myself down, sinking all the way down into it. For those of you that do have good balance and want to take it a little further, feel like the other activities were not enough of a challenge, go ahead and take your Bosu out. Start with the dome side first. I would recommend actually doing these barefoot. Gives a nice little challenge, plus also too, really increases some nice ankle strengthening exercises for that foot as well. And don't forget also too, we have two of them, so we have to do both sides. So from here, come on up. As always, first just start, get that relationship going, feel that unsteadiness, figure out where that, once you feel you have a good balanced position, you're gonna go ahead, come on down into that single leg toe touch here, and then pushing up through that glute. Remember, your calves are gonna feel it a lot. The dome side is gonna be a lot more challenging than the flat side, okay? And that's just simply because the flat side, you can allow yourself to have a little bit better surface area. In terms of the dome side, is that cushiony unevenness. It's like being in sand or on a waterbed. But here, if we're on the flat side, we have a lot more stability, just in the sense is when we're coming up. And then from there, once you get your balance, coming on down, it's a little easier on the flat side to push up through the heel and coming up into the activity. Okay, so there you guys have it. You have a different progression for trying to get in some single leg activities based on the post that I wrote above, talking about the importance of ankle mobility and how to go about and strengthen those ankles for your sport. If you guys have any questions on how to do the exercises, if you're feeling pain or discomfort in knees, hips, ankles, please stop the exercise immediately because then A, you're doing something wrong, or B, you're not ready for that more difficult progression. All right, everyone, enjoy the rest of fall, and I will talk to you